This programme was funded with the support of the Broadcasting Authority of Ireland with the television licence fee.
Hello, my name is Tom Brady and welcome to the series Living with the Border. The border cut off natural hinterlands, separated communities and neighbours that had lived together for years. While the hardships people suffered as a result of the border have been well documented, these programmes intend to look at the funnier side of living along the border. My guest today is Leonard Hattrick, former councillor, native of Ardee, now living in Louth Village. Welcome to the programme, Leonard.
We moved to Louth Village in 2006. And previous to that, we lived in Ardee. I was in Ardee for over 50 years.
50 years?
Well, I was 60, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm giving away my age now.
What was it like growing up in Ardee?
It was a lovely place to grow up, and I had a lot of friends in both communities. We went to a separate, so we went to the Church of Ireland school where you only had about 12 people, and you didn't learn about sports, or you didn't learn a sport or anything like they would in the Christian Brother school. Though some of my mates there, I'd meet them at the other end of the town and we'd walk home together, and he would be at the Christian Brother school, I'd be at the Church of Ireland school, the other end of the town. But we'd meet up and walk home, and we were next door neighbours. And it was a great time, really. The only thing is, I'd say we were very innocent and didn't know a lot. And I was brought up in a very Christian family. We weren't allowed to listen to the radio on a Sunday. The radio had to be off. Though when my brother got old-fashioned enough, he was about 7 years older than me, and when he got old-fashioned, he used to turn on BBC Radio 1 for the Top of the Pops on a Sunday evening at 5:30. He used to listen to Radio Caroline and all that. But I really wasn't interested in music. It was only when I was working in the GC factory that had a radio playing in the background, and I got used to the modern pop tunes. This was 1969. Then I got into music, but unfortunately I was a bit lazy at learning to play anything, which I would have loved to play the piano, for instance, or that. I'd love to sit down and play the piano. But anyway.
You emigrated to England, didn't you?
I emigrated to England in 1972. But I couldn't see any future here, and so decided to go to London. And when I got there, I rang the brother to see could he put me up. I didn't even tell him I was going. He already was living in Camberwell in London, and so he put me up for one night, and then he sorted me out in a lodging place in down at St Mary's Cray in Kent, and I was there for a wee while and got a lovely job in a place called Vicar's House in Algarve. At first, being Irish, I was being treated a wee bit, they thought we were all in the IRA, like every Irishman was in the IRA, and if it wasn't for the like of Terry Wogan and them, and like a Dave Allen say, these famous people, like, we would have been cursed altogether, But the like of Terry Wogan let them see that there was good people in Ireland as well. And then I got going, and then I made the best of friends. I'm still friends with, even though my mates at the time, they're dead now, I'm still friends with their daughter and
yeah. And you came back
families.
And went back again, did you?
Yeah, I came back here. I got a job in the textile in Ardee, which was great. They were employing 400 people. And at the time, and we didn't really know how lucky we were in Ardee. But unfortunately, at that time we joined the common market, and the thread, we were spinning yarn in the textile, and Lizardale Towels was only 8 miles down the road from us, and it ended up after we joined the common market, Lisitdale could ship the same stuff that get in RD at 10 pence a hank cheaper than they could get it 8 mile away from them. And they could ship it and all. And this was one of the bad things about the common market. And it's a bit late doing anything about it now. We have to stay in it now because we're in it and that's it.
Now, so when was your really first experience at the border? When did you first cross the border?
The first time I crossed the border I was about 7 years old, and I was with my dad, and it was an excursion to Bangor. And I remember going in this first time on a motorway. Well, it probably was an A road at the time, but it was where the motorway is going into Belfast now. And I remember the lovely hedgerows, that stood out for me. I can still see them. And they're about 3-4 feet high, and they were well clipped and all this. In the middle of the road, you know, instead of, now you have to have the barriers, you see, for safety. I remember that, and then I remember Frank White that organised the excursion. I remember going around on
was it a bus?
Yeah.
From RD?
Yeah, bus, CIE bus. And I remember Frank going round with the hat for having a collection for the driver.
Oh, that's right.
When we came back, the customs got in and searched, looked up in the racks and everything to see.
Was it the Irish customs or the Northern?
The Irish ones.
And
the Northern ones
did they see anything? Did they see anything?
They didn't know. I think Frank White kind of knew some of them or something. They let us away late. But they did look through, they did walk through the bus and they were looking in the racks and that, but they didn't ask anyone to seize anything.
And what customs post was that?
That was Killeen.
Oh, Killeen, yeah.
And that's the main, where you cross over.
The main, yeah.
And the English customs didn't seem to care as much, I think. We were always stopped by the Irish customs, I remember coming back from places, you know.
Depends what way you were going, you see.
Yeah, well that's it, yeah. But the Irish customs, they seem to be more strict or something than the English ones. And, well, that's the impression I got.
Yeah. You took up a job at Coors Umper in 1981.
In 1981, yeah. A fella in Drogheda, Paddy Rowe, was the station master, and he was an RD man, you see. So I went in and I asked for Mr. Rowe, and I told him I was looking for a job, you know. And he says, you needn't bother applying. He says, I've 50 applications in here on my desk already, looking for work. And you needn't bother, he says. So that was all right. He turned to go right through that. And then he just called me, by the way, what's your name anyway? And I said, Leonard Hattrick. Oh, come in, I worked with your father and your uncle and for years, you know, and it was great. And the next thing, I was started in a fortnight. But he said the 50 applications here, in case someone thinks I was getting favouritism, there was 50 applications there. But he says none of them get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, or they wouldn't want to do 6 days a week, or they wouldn't want to work a Sunday, you know, a lot of them. And so I was lucky I got in, and another chap was started. He was started on the early shift, and I was on the late shift, so he was senior to me by one shift. Nicky Anderson, he's from around RD, and you probably heard about him. He got, there was vandals on a bridge at Thermiskin one time, and it threw a big block off, and it hit the windscreen of the engine, and he got glass in his eyes and everything. It was terrible.
So you became a freight trainer?
Freight trainer. Well, I was doing freight. First of all, I had to train in Dublin for 14 months in North Wall, just shunting in and out. Freight, right?
Yeah.
And then you start getting road knowledge out on the main line, so you'd be on passenger trains mostly. And then when I got back to Dundalk, it was freight mostly. And I'd go to Belfast, and it was great times. There were great times, and you know, there was a driver there, and he'd take over the train from us because the unions didn't want us coming up and doing their work up there, you know. So we were free to do nearly what we wanted. So we'd go out and get something to eat and maybe going to a Stewart supermarket or something.
So during the Troubles, the lines were blown up every time. How did that affect?
It affected us big time because you go in, you know, and the bomb scare. You know, you go in and they tell you out of the bomb scare, the line's closed, so you couldn't do your work. And then the enterprises would be stopping in Dundalk, so you'd probably do the run back to Dublin. They wouldn't bring the northern men up to do their job, do their run, you see, so we get the northern runs from Dundalk. And it was a shocking thing, really, not to be able to go in and do your duty, I thought. And one time I got a call coming back. Control got on over the radio to me and he said, stop the train immediately. That's all was said, nothing for 20 minutes. And so just sat there. After 20 minutes he came on there and he says, oh, but you can go ahead now. He says, you're after going over the bomb. So that was great. And I felt great that I got the train into Dundalk that night, you know. And then other times then... there was a train in Newry station, and one of the new engines, £2.5 million worth, and the train was stuck in Newry, and they were trying to burn it and that, you know. But some of the drivers in the north couldn't get the brake off the engine to haul it back, so two of the managers were waiting for me in the north. Well, you go to Newry and see, can you shift that train? We don't want to leave it there because it's going to be burnt or something, you know. So I had to go down and there was three of us there and we got the brake off anyway. I knew how to lick these brakes off the engine and we got it back at Dundalk. And then I looked back at Killinassaggart, I seen a lot of smoke from the brakes. And I says, what am I going to do? I'm not going to stop here, you know. So, because otherwise you'd be worse there than at Newry even. And you were in the middle of nowhere. So I kept going anyway. I told the managers when I got back what happened. They says, oh, don't worry, we don't mind spending a few pound on the wheels. He says, but if the engine was burnt, you'd be talking a lot of bigger money, you know. And then another night I was coming from, I came out of Newry station. We had a train that the 1713 was extended. Sorry, the 1713X Pierce was extended to Newry in the evenings, and then the Enterprise would come up, and when the up Enterprise came, we'd have to cross the road and wait for the signal to get to Dundalk. So I crossed the road and went up to the signal, and the next thing I look back and I see a lot of flames. Well, they were there about 5 minutes, like. So I had to go back and investigate. I got under control. I says, the engine's on fire here, I have to go back. And I went back, anyway, when I went back, there was RUC men there was firemen and everyone. I don't know how they knew, but there was after being a riot down on the ground. And one of the policemen shoved me in one side of the engine. And he says, I'm sorry about that, he says, but they were throwing stones up at us and I didn't want you to get hit. And so that was a big experience.
And there's no freight train service now. When did the freight train business cease?
It ceased in around 2000, I think it was. 2002 maybe.
And what took its place?
Well, what took its place then, because of the peace coming in and all that, you see, everything started going by lorry again.
By lorries, yeah.
And the customs was done away with and all this. When the customs was done away with, CIE used to do all the paperwork, all the customs paperwork, and they'd handle everything for companies. So the companies, that was great for them. They just pay CIE to do the work. And that was great. But then when things got kind of normal, that was done away with the freight.
Charles Friel
wrote
a book.
That's correct.
I see where you appear in that book.
Yeah, I was one of the ones, because I helped organise a few interviews. They interviewed me as well, even though I wasn't a GNR man, but my family where my dad and my uncle and my grandfather, my great-grandfather laid the tracks in Donegal, and he was station master on a place called St Johnston in Donegal. And because of my history, they said, we'll interview you as well. And I was telling basically a lot of stuff I'm telling you now is in that book, you see.
That's good.
You know, and...
so, we'll take a break now for a song.
Yeah.
As you were a train driver, an appropriate song would be Big Tom, the GNR steam train.
The songs of Boxcar Willie, how they're taking me back again. In my childhood days in Blaney, when I saw my first steam train. She was standing at the station with her smokestack black and tall. Then she left for Enniskillen, heading on the Donegal. The first time that I rode this train, oh how my poor heart bled. I was just another emigrant on my way to Holyhead. I was leaving home that morning to seek fortune and fame. So I left Castleblaney on the GNR steam train. The farmers working in the fields, they always knew the time, as I listened to her whistle as she thundered down the line. She took many folk away from home and brought them back again, but now she's gone forever, that GNR steam train. She carried freight and livestock from factories and from fairs. She also took the pilgrims to Loughdare to say their prayers. Going to an Ulster final, she was really loaded down as she steamed away through Ballybay to the game of Clonus town. Now Taylor's tunnel is no more and the footbridge is now gone. There's a row of red brick houses where the railway gates once swung. There are many men in Blaney who wish they were kids again. You could flirt in court and lose your heart on the GNR steam train. The farmers working in the fields, they always knew the time, as I listened to her whistle as she thundered down the line. She took many folk away from home and brought them back again, but now she's gone forever, that GNR steam train. Final journey, she was shunted to the side. The people mourned her passing like a dear friend who had died. I saw big men broken hearted, their tears fell like rain when they said goodbye forever to the GNR steam train. So Boxcar, blow your whistle and imitate your train. GNR or Western Union, to me they're both the same. They're now a part of history, but the memories remain. How I'd like to stop and listen to the whistle of a train. The farmers working in the fields, they always knew the time, as I listened to her whistle as she thundered down the line. She took many folk away from home and brought them back again, but now she's gone forever, that GNR steam train.
Now, you've told me about your experiences of your cross-border driving and how it impacted on the train. That was a frightful experience, right? But how did the campaign of violence impact on Mid-Louth, especially Dundalk? Like there was the bombings in Crow Street where Hugh Walter and Jack Rooney was killed. There was the hunger strikes. There was the weekly marches. There was the bombings in Enniskillen and Omagh.
Yeah.
How did this impact on Dundalk and Louth, the whole thing?
Well, in 1975 when that bomb happened, I was in London and all you seen was pictures from aftermath of what happened. I didn't know the Waters man, he was actually related to people who was married into my family that came from Donegal, which I didn't know till about 12 years ago. I didn't know anything about them. They were years ago when there was a mixed marriage and with us, or every, you were outcast, in those days. So the whole family in Dundalk I didn't know anything about. But anyway, that's going away from what you asked me, more than a politician here, but no, it did affect big time. People were afraid, and that was only that bomb in Dundalk, was just letting people see what could happen, Yeah. And we didn't want that happening up here, and the same with the Talbot Street, we didn't want that in this area. And of course, it made Dundalk famous. Because if you said to someone, oh, Dundalk, oh, that's where the bomb was, I heard that name. Dundalk was famous then for that, But as I say, I was in England and I don't know a lot about it.
Do you recall the incident in RD where the Labour Exchange was robbed and the Sergeant Morrissey was...
I do, yeah, tragedy, yes.
Did you know Sergeant Morrissey, no?
I would have known him briefly, yes. Yeah. I didn't know him. I would have been more familiar with the guard. Sergeant Morrissey was in Cullen, you see, more.
Yes.
I would be more familiar with the guards in RD at that time. And, he was a brave man. He followed this fella, and he followed into a wood there not too far away here from Louth village. And, man, shot him and
So the Good Friday Agreement of 1998 was warmly welcomed, especially in County Louth.
Oh yeah, it was, yeah, and it made a big difference to us. Anyone that has relatives in the north, or if they're going to do their shopping or anything, it made a big difference. People weren't afraid then, It was a completely different, story than a few years before that,
Yeah.
And it did make a hell of a lot of, and I think it made a big difference for trade and everything on both sides of the border, and
foreign investment.
Foreign investment and all that. People were coming in and putting money into factories and all sorts of stuff, And at the minute now you can see some of the results there. Like Dundalk, there's new jobs announced nearly every week for Dundalk.
Yes.
Only a couple of weeks ago there was 500 jobs created.
And has the motorway improved?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Years ago I never thought I'd see a sign off the road for RD off a motorway, But we got it eventually anyway. That was one good thing the Common Market done for us, Europe was the roads, and probably wouldn't. It's just a pity they didn't do a few more when they had the money that time.
And there's a World War I memorial in RD. How did that come about?
Yeah, I think it was around 2007. It was brought up on a meeting. Paulie McKinney put it forward, proposed that we should have a war memorial. And that was great. I was delighted. And it was seconded by some of the other councils. I just can't remember who now, but I thought this was fantastic. So then, it wasn't until 2013, I think it was, we launched it. And, not launched it, we got it erected. There was big panic. We did order the stone off someone else, but it was delayed. They were shipping it from somewhere and it was delayed. So, Paulie McKinney, and he got it organised through a headstone man in Drogheda, and the service, we were having the service the next day, and that was started the day before, and a memorial was up and all for us to have the service on the Saturday.
Okay. And
that was the first World War I service we had in RD.
Was that recently?
That's 2013.
Oh yeah, but there was a centenary recently.
Yeah, well that's every year we have it now, you see.
The
centenary, yeah, sorry, no, that was a different, The centenary was in Cullen for a fella called Samuel James Emerson. He was 100 years killed on the 6th of December. So we had a big memorial service in Cullen for that. And, well, it wasn't just for him. It was mainly it was because for him, but there was a lot of other people in the church that was killed as well, and they're on a scroll for king and country. But a lot of them didn't do it for that, you know, they done it for a job and different things, so
it shows the good community relations.
It does, definitely, yeah.
Loud.
But we always had that in RD.
You were an RD Town Council for 15 years.
15 years, yeah.
What was your high points? You were chairperson on 2 occasions.
Yes, that's correct, yeah. The highlight for me was doing the Special Olympics. The Bank of Ireland approached me and asked me would I be chairman of the Special Olympics for the town.
Oh, yeah.
And we had to organise, we had to get a lot of volunteers together, and again, it was all local workers that were willing to put their time into it.
So Brexit is going to have a big impact on the border.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say if it was a hard, well, we're not going to say now we're going to get a soft Brexit, but if it was a hard Brexit, I was thinking from experience we might get freight back on the rail to Belfast. You know, of course you wouldn't need the men now that you had that time. You had a lot of jobs that time because of computers and all this now. It's very easy to, you know, you could work it very handy. And that's what I was thinking, if it was a hard Brexit, we would get the freight back onto the rails, you know.
Yeah, but it looks like now the British Prime Minister has agreed that we won't have a hard border.
That's right, yeah.
But it's hard to know how it's going to pan out.
Well, this is it, you see, you won't know, and then they have to get the thing moving to get into the trade talks.
Yes.
You know, they have to get that moving, so something else could come up later on and change what they've decided already.
Yeah.
So to say it won't happen, but it could happen. It's very easy. Things happen very easy.
But at the present time, from a practical point of view, the border is non-existent from a practical view. You can go across and back.
Oh, yeah.
The only way you'd know is the difference in colour.
And the miles.
Yeah.
And you cross, you go into miles.
And the road markings.
Yeah.
You're chairperson of RD Educate Together.
Yeah, well, no, I'm vice chairperson now.
But what does it really do, Educate Together?
Well, it's getting the communities together. It's
yes.
And you learn about everybody's religion.
Oh, yeah.
There's Hindus and all sorts of people going to the school, you know. There's not just Catholic and Protestant, it varies, and you learn about every one of the religions, and on the feast day, if it's an Indian feast day, you learn about that on that day. And
I see.
so you see the other child's point of view, and it's great when they're so young to be doing this, you know.
Thank you, Leonard, for sharing your memories on border living. Goodbye from Tom Brady, and thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the programme.
This programme was funded with the support of the Broadcasting Authority of Ireland with the television licence fee.